Hey, what's going on, friends? It is Bad Guy Cam here with our Week 1 battle of the NPBA Season 3. We had our draft analysis video go up earlier sometime. I'm not exactly sure how this is all going to work out yet, but we're going to be uploading some stuff. That'll go up first, this will go up second. That I do know for sure. But today, with this battle, we are going up against Willem and the Dutch Duosion. Let me grab his team information here. So, for reference, you can see the 6 that I think he's going to be bringing over here. Above my head, you'll see the team that I will be bringing for this battle, and we're going to go over that super quick. So, for his team, just to give you the whole breakdown of the Dutch Duosians, we've got Megalot Bunny, Latios, Skarmory, Incineroar, Scolipede, Lantern, Togekiss, Silvally, Claydol, and Meganium. So we've got some pretty significant threats and some big walls that we're going to have to break down in order to win this one. So like you can see, 6 that I think he's going to be bringing over here. We have Incineroar, Latios, Megalot Bunny, Lantern, Skarmory, and Silvally. Not sure what form of Silvally, so we're just going to slap it on there. I feel like it's just so versatile. Like, it's crazy. It's crazy how good it is. I lost to a Silvally in the finals, in case you can't tell I'm bitter. But that's at you, Glenn. Anyway, because of this team, I've got a couple different mons that I'm bringing that I think can help weather the storm and break down some of those walls. So first off, we have Fox the Phoenix, the Talonflame with Defog U-Turn, Dual Wing Beat, and Fire Blast. So we're running a little bit of like a mixed set with some bulk Talonflame. This one's a little bit interesting. With the Megalot Bunny specifically, that thing is fast. We need a way to hit that. And so what we did was with Gale Wings and Dual Wing Beat, we do get priority on that, and so that does allow us to hit the Lot Bunny. I believe, I don't have my calcs pulled up right now, but it's a chance of a one-hit knockout. So we're running that there, and then we're running Fire Blast over Flare Blitz A to keep our health intact because we're not running Roost, and to hit the Skarmory a little bit harder. It tends to run, Skarmory tends to be more defensive, so running that special Fire Blast is going to be hitting that Skarmory much harder than our Flare Blitz without the recoil. So that's kind of the idea there. We do have the heavy duty boots with Defog. That's how we are getting rid of our rocks this week, and that's going to be our Fox. Next up we have Luck, the Zeraora. We are going Expert Belt with Volt Switch, Plasma Fist, Close Combat, and Knockoff. So we're going pretty much all physical here, right? We do have that Volt Switch, which does hit the Skarmory pretty hard. Again, going back to the Skarmory, I hate Skarmories. Like, they're so tough to deal with. But with Zeraora and the Expert Belt, that's allowing us to do a little bit extra damage without taking the Life Orb recoil, and it allows me to do things like bluff Scarf, or not show off exactly what my item is, and it might keep them guessing as to what set I am, especially if I go for the Volt Switch first and that does a little extra damage. Then they might think, okay, he's special, something like that. That's kind of the idea here. We got the Volt Absorb as well. He doesn't have any electric types aside from Lantern. That's kind of like the biggest thing that's going to stop my luck from putting in a lot of work. But a knockoff and 2 close combats to do the job there. Lantern is a thick boy, in case you didn't know. So that's the first. So that's Zeraora. It's going to be there just to kind of harass, do some damage here or there. It's very fast. It naturally outspeeds his entire team. Once we do with that jolly nature. So as you can see, we are running the positive speed, negative special attack there, just to outspeed the Megalot Bunny. Next up, we have Golden Face, the Metagross, with the Assault Vest. So I did notice that his 2 main special attackers on his team are Latios and Togekiss, both of which Metagross handles easily with the Assault Vest, and does quite a bit of damage back. So we are running the Assault Vest with Bullet Punch, Meteor Mash, Earthquake, and Thunder Punch. That does give us pretty much perfect coverage against his team, at least hitting everything neutral. Meteor Mash is going to do the most damage. Earthquake is there for like the Incineroar and the Lantern. Bullet Punch to get a little extra chip damage off if we know we're going up against something that's a little bit faster and need to get a hit in or two before we go down. So that's going to be the plan for Metagross today. Fully attack invested, 252 Adamant Nature with full HP, and then to kind of break up the rest of the EVs, put 4 in speed and 4 in special defense. The 4 in speed is just to under the assumption that Skarmory is going to run 0 speed investment. We are going to outspeed every time, just kind of speed corrupt that, because otherwise it is a speed tie, as we both have the same base speed. Next up, we have Mega Venusaur. This thing's here just to kind of be annoying as well, with the Synthesis, Leech Seed, Knockoff, and Giga Drain. Obviously, that ability goes to Thick Fat once it Mega evolves. Here to, kind of Leech Seed stuff, stay healthy, knock items off, and then just kind of whittle things down. Skarmory is definitely the biggest threat to Mega Venusaur, aside from the obvious, Latios that can come in. But Knockoff is doing quite a bit, so it doesn't want to switch in directly to my Mega Venusaur, and I do take at least one hit. We are running fully physically defensive. The main purpose of this Venusaur is going to be a switch into the Mega Lot Bunny and the Incineroar. The Incineroar, even with the fire type, Flare Blitz, Adamant, Max Attack is not even doing half to Mega Venusaur, and then we can Synthesis up, Leech Seed, and just sit there in front of it and not have to worry about doing anything really. So that's our Mega Venusaur today. Mostly just there to be bulk in the wall. We're going bulk again too with the Corsola or Galarian Corsola. With the Eviolite and Curse Body ability, Strength Sap, Will-O-Wisp, Stealth Rock, Nightshade. This more so is going to be my switch into Mega Lot Bunny. It's also there in case he brings the Scolipede. It shuts down both stabs from Scolipede and does not take much in return. So we went for a mostly defensive with a little bit of special defense just to kind of help out with the Latios a little bit more. But we are running, like I said, Strength Sap to kind of help with those physical walls, Will-O-Wisp, and then we got Stealth Rock and Nightshade, so we have our Stealth Rocker here as well in the Galarian Corsola. And our last mon is Delta the Salamence, rocking the Lumberry and Intimidate. I've had Intimidate. I've been going back and forth whether I want to run Moxie or Intimidate, because I am running the Dragon Dance, and the Moxie seems like a good choice. The one thing that really threatens my Mega or Salamence before it can get to a Dragon Dance is a Mega Lot Bunny with like triple Axle, and I did the calcs and it doesn't do enough to the Mega Lot Bunny. Like the Intimidate doesn't, that -1 doesn't give enough for Salamence to survive. So I'm actually going to switch that right now. We're going to run Moxie instead, because I do think if we can get that one Dragon Dance up, the only thing that can outspeed it at that point is either a Scarf Latios or a Scolipede, and we don't really care too much about a Scolipede. We do live Rock Slides from the Scolipede. I believe if it's for sure if it's +1, and it's a chance if it's +2. So I do think that that's kind of the best way to go about that. Because ideally we're not going to be switching into the Scolipede where it's already going to be boosted up. So that's the idea if the Scolipede does come. And that's our team. So I'm going to reach out to Willem and we're going to get this battle scheduled. So I will see you in just a minute as we come around. And we're back. And the first thing that you're going to notice here is that what I'm saying does not line up at all with what my lips are doing, and that's because I forgot to turn off the sounds in Pokemon Showdown. So when I checked my video, you couldn't hear a single thing I was saying because the audio was too loud. So we are doing a post-comm on the battle right now. As you can see, we're probably going over who our lead is and some of the things that we're seeing on the team. We do see that instead of the Skarmory, he does bring the Scolipede, which I was very scared of that Skarmory, as I am sure you heard in the team prep. I had a couple different ways to deal with it because I thought that thing was going to be a huge threat. But now that I see that the Skarmory's not there, things like my Zeraora don't seem as as important as they were before. Yes, we still get the speed with the knockoff and we get the close combat, so we can hit some things super effectively. So I'm thinking that's going to be our lead. We're probably just going to go with Zeraora. The one thing that I'm considering here is that we could just see them lead with a lantern right off the bat, and that's going to force me to do some swapping around, which ultimately would be okay. I do consider going directly into the Venusaur, but if he does decide to lead with that the Latios for whatever reason, that didn't seem like the best play. In the end, I do think that Zeraora would be the best option. We end up going with Zeraora and decide, hey, we'll see what they lead with and go from there. So we see them lead the Incineroar, and I'm thinking here, okay, I'm intimidated. I can hit this with a close combat, but it's probably not going to do very much. If he goes for a knockoff, that's going to do some decent damage. He could predict my Volt Switch and go into a Lantern, or he could sit there and take the Volt Switch himself, and then parting shot out into something else, depending on what I go into. So I'm thinking I'm going to be kind of clever here and go for the knockoff, because that way if the Lantern comes in, it'll likely lose its leftovers, and if he stays in with the Incineroar, I'm going to knock off whatever item they have here. So one other thing to note, like I said earlier, because we have the there's no Skarmory, it does have the speed, which is nice, but we do go for the knockoff. They lose their item, Heavy Duty Boots, but then we get hit with the Will-O-Wisp. And my first thought is, okay, that sucks, but it's not the end of the world. Because there is no Skarmory, I wasn't too worried about this. Like, we can still use Zeraora to do some chip, stuff like that. So I think that at this point, for sure, he's got to switch out. There's no way that he's going to stay in because I am just going to switch out. But at this point, and kind of going back through and watching the video, I do realize that I should have done a switch of my own, probably going for the Volt Switch. And if the Lantern came in, the Lantern came in. But I think that there's no way he's going to switch, and that's kind of what I'm saying right here. And so I end up going for another knockoff, which we'll see when I click that. But I'm thinking, hey, yeah, we'll go for a knockoff. I'm so convinced that this Lantern is going to come back in, but it doesn't. And instead I get knocked off. I lose my expert belt, and I kind of have that no one to blame at that point, right? At this point, starting off kind of rough. At this point, I kind of look at it and say, you know what? It is what it is. Mostly my Zeraora is going to be here for a little chip damage and knock off. So at this point, if the Lantern does come in, whatever, I'm just going to click Volt Switch and go into whatever is next. And if he does go into the Lantern, great. We'll probably then click knockoff at that point. He'll probably switch back into Incineroar, and we can go back and forth. But at that point, we just need to do something. So we go for the Volt Switch. Because we're burned, it ends up doing an okay amount of damage. We also know it's not Assault Vest. And then my question here is, if he goes for the knock, depending on what I go into, he can hit me super effectively, because my Venusaur, who is supposed to be my Incineroar check, is not Mega Evolved yet. So if I switch in at this point, it's going to hit me really hard. And so then I start thinking about what my potential options are, because if he goes for a knockoff, then Corsola is going to take a big hit. So I end up thinking that Salamence might be a great move here, because that's pretty much the only thing I can switch into both its moves that I'm pretty sure it's going to go for. I do have the Lumberry on Salamence as well, so if it does go for a Will-O-Wisp predicting something, I'm also okay at that point. So I'm thinking about it, and I end up deciding that Salamence is the way to go, because all of those things. Kind of calling it out as well. Metagross is an awful switch in here because it's weak to both stabs. Talonflame, we want to keep it full health. So I end up spending a decent amount of time here trying to decide what to do, but eventually you go into the Salamence and we take the knockoff. So in hindsight, yes, the Venusaur probably would have been a better play here, because we could have taken that knockoff, Mega Evolved. He might have gone for a Flare Bliss or Parting Shot or whatever. We're going to, we can work with that totally just fine. But we're here now. We have a Salamence in front of the Incineroar. I do a check to see how much EQ is going to do, and it's not going to quite be enough. We're going to be just short on the Earthquake here. So I'm kind of weighing my options. I don't have my Lumberry anymore either, so I'm thinking he can go for a Will-O-Wisp and burn me, and that would be bad because then that would hinder any potential future setup chance. Because right now I am sitting at 50%. That's enough to take a couple hits, but I do switch straight into Venusaur here, as we do see him go for the Will-O-Wisp. And that was a kind of risky play, but I figured he wasn't going to go for the Flare Blitz, largely due to the fact it resisted. But I'm going to go for the Leech Seed here with Venusaur, assuming that he's not going to stay in, or he was going to stay in and go for the Flare Blitz, and we would get some good chip damage off. But we do see the Parting Shot and that he is faster, and that was something that I noted here that was pretty big, that he was faster than my Venusaur. But we see the Lantern come in, which I was very surprised about. We get the Leech Seed off on it, and we go for a knockoff. The Lantern then Volt Switches, and I believe goes into the Latios here, if I remember correctly. And so we're just going to sit here. Our Parting Shot, so our special attack and our attack are down. We're burned. And this thing is going to hurt if it goes for a Psychic move. So our initial play, and the reason we brought Metagross was to stop the stab from this Latios. And it's running Assault Vest specifically to be able to take some hits from this Latios. So we're kind of contemplating back and forth on, what is it going to do? Is it going to be Scarfed? Is it going to try to, set up on me? Because that was another thing that went through my head, was it could be a sub Calm Mind. We see it go for a Shadow Ball, though, and do a ton of damage. I'm sure you saw it on my face right there, but I was extremely surprised at how much damage that did, to the point where I was like, that's got to be some sort of specs, and I had to look at it just to make sure, because I felt like that was so much damage. Even when I was running calcs, I didn't remember it doing that much damage. So at this point, I'm looking at it, but I know for a fact that it is a specs. I can't remember if I just said specs or Scarf, but it's definitely specs. And so with the specs, we know that it's locked in at this point. We're not going to go out into Galarian Corsola. That would be silly. We can't stay in, though. I do some checks to see how much it's going to do to Mega Venusaur, and I do see that it's going to take it fairly well. So at this point, I'm checking my calcs, seeing what the best choice is, and we do go into that Mega Venusaur, where we see that it is going to do 35%, and we know that we can live another one because of those damage calcs. So we're able to get a Synthesis off, heal ourselves back up, take a little bit extra burn damage. We know that we're faster than the Lantern, so we swap out, expecting the Volt Switch into the Zeraora maybe to get some health back, but we see a Psybeam, which was something that I wasn't expecting at all. So I now see why he had been switching in the Lantern previously, and now we switch under the assumption that it's going to attack at this point. We go into Galarian Corsola, and of course get burned on the Scald. And my first thing here is we need to get some Stealth Rocks up, because I don't really see Latios having it, or having Defog to get rid of them. And with the Silvally, that's the thing that I think is going to have Defog. So we see it go for the Volt Switch. Our Curse Body removes the Volt Switch. Hooray. It does go into the Incineroar, which makes a lot of sense. So it can go for the knockoff. We get our Stealth Rocks up. We've got some burn damage, and we're just going to sacrifice our Zeraora. And our first casualty of Season 3 is our first pick, Zeraora. Unfortunately, I did not use Zeraora as well as I felt I could have, but that's for another time. So now we go into our dedicated Incineroar check. We see that Flare Blitz do 30 damage. We are able to Synthesis back up to full. And now we remember from last time, the Incineroar is faster. So if he goes for a Flare Blitz again, he's going to stay in. If he goes for a Parting Shot, he's going to go before us, like we see. So we're going to go for another Leech Seed. We see the Lantern takes some damage. It gets Leech Seeded. So we're able to keep our health up, and we're able to keep whittling down this Lantern. So at this point, I do have Earth Power that I can go for, but I'm expecting the the Latios to come back in. I'm guessing likely the Lantern is probably going to Volt Switch, and I'm trying to figure out what the best way is to get around that. For him, I don't see his Lantern really having too much more to do, so I just go for a Giga Drain at this point. Oh, I don't have Earth Power. I had Giga Drain, that's right. So I go for the Giga Drain. They do go for the Volt Switch, down to 13%, and we have the Lottie in front of us now. So now I have a guessing game. This thing obviously has a Psychic type move. I have my Metagross, and I'm looking at the teams, and I feel that having the Venusaur at as much health as it's at, and if I can get it locked into a Psychic or a Shadow Ball, then I can do some damage. So I end up going into Metagross with the 50-50 of, is it going to die or is it going to take this hit? And luckily we do see the Psychic. So we take the hit well, and we know that it's locked in. We can take a couple more of those for sure. And so we just straight up go for the Meteor Mash here under the assumption that, or the Earthquake here, under the assumption that this Latios is not staying in and is in fact going to go for the Incineroar. We do go for the Earthquake partially due to the fact that Meteor Mash has a chance to miss, and that's kind of the last thing we wanted here. Even though if the Latios did stay in, it would be able to get another hit off on us, but realistically, unless it was a super crit, we'd be totally fine. But we do see the Lantern come in, dies to the Stealth Rocks. Meteor Mash misses because there's nothing there to hit. And we see the Incineroar come in. At this point, it does not have boots, and we know it's a little bit faster because it was outspeeding our Venusaur. So that's exactly what we do, is we switch back out to our Venusaur to take the hit. We could have gone for the Bullet Punch, but calcs show that it wasn't going to kill, so it was better to just switch at that point. So now we're in with our Venusaur, and we've got a couple things. Again, we know that we're faster. You can see me on the right side, just double checking, making sure. And at this point, we can do a couple of things. We can Synthesis up. We can go for a knockoff under the assumption that it's going to switch out. We can go for the Leech Seed on whatever's going to come in. We have a few different options here. And so after taking a little bit of time, we went back, kind of read through what had been going on. We do see the Parting Shot come off, and then we see them go into the Latios. So at this point, I'm kind of kicking myself a little bit, because if we would have been able to get the knockoff on the Latios, we probably would have been able to do some pretty good damage. Or we would have been able to take a couple hits with some of our other ones. But at the same time, and it would have done a decent amount of damage, like I said. But in the end, I feel like having the health here and then kind of coming back into this 50-50 game makes a lot of sense, because at this point, I'm just going to do what I did last time, and we're going to switch out into the Metagross. If it goes for Shadow Ball, so be it. We can come in with something like our... like something that can start setting up and do some damage. But we do see the Psychic come off, which means our Metagross lives another day. They've already sacked off the Lantern. At this point, they're looking at it and saying, okay, based on the calcs, and I'm looking at it based on the calcs, and I know a Meteor Mash is going to take this thing out. I know an Earthquake's going to take the Incineroar out. He's not going to stay in. There's no way he's going to lose his answer to the Venusaur. And that's kind of my thought process, right? Is there's really nothing else on his team that can take down the Venusaur. So he needs to keep this around, which means that he's going to switch into one of his other 4 Mons, which that means an Earthquake has to come out. He ends up sacrificing the Incineroar, and it goes down to the Earthquake. Out comes the Lot Bunny. We know that the Lot Bunny is going to Mega Evolve here, probably go for a Fake Out. Our Corsola is our dedicated switch in here. Unfortunately, it did take a little bit of damage earlier on and got burned. So we are going to see it go just directly for the return without the Fake Out, which is a good move on his play, largely because he's able to get that extra damage off, which is important. Now that I am in with the Corsola, because close combat does take it out, I did click Strength Tap on the off chance that it did go through. And here I do go directly into Fox because I see that, hey, he is -1 on defense. A dual wing beat will take this out if they stay in. It's going to do damage to something. I consider taking U-turn as he goes into the Silvally ground. U-turn makes some good sense. I do think that it's a more utility set, but in case it's Scarf, I end up switching out into Venusaur. I see it end up going for the Swords Dance, which turns out to be a pretty decent play, I feel like, because I know I can take a multi-attack at +2. I'm not going to take it extremely well, but I can at least get a Leech Seed off and start getting some health back. From there, I think the other thing I was thinking about here was, should I just go straight up for the Synthesis? But then I decide that doesn't make a lot of sense, especially if it does over 50%, because then I'm in a losing battle there, and I'd rather have as much health as I can. We see it do 48%, and with the burn, that does do over 50. And with how much that did, unfortunately, that does put us in range for a second multi-attack. So I switch into Salamence to avoid the multi-attack with the flying type, get a little bit of health back, and I figure I'm just going to go for the Dragon Claw here because, you know, it makes sense, right? Like, we're going to do a little bit of damage. We're going to, I'm weighing the options of, does this thing have Ice Beam, does it not? And we see that it is extremely bulky, and the Rock Slide misses, which is a big play, because once I saw that it was a setup mon as opposed to a defogger right off the bat, it made me question what type of Silvally this was going to be, and I started thinking that it was probably going to be more offensive, because I didn't check how much my Fox was doing to it. But at that point, in hindsight, I should have probably checked that. Just then I would have seen how defensive this thing was, and then I might have made a different play there. But in the end, we do knock it out, thankfully, due to the Rock Slide miss from Silvally. But now the Lot Bunny comes in, and I'm thinking this thing for sure has triple axle. I don't have too much that's going to be able to take that well, so I don't want to lose my Salamence, and I'm going to switch into Mega Venusaur. But we see it has Ice Punch instead of the triple axle, which I'm kicking myself over at this point, because had I kept the Intimidate on Salamence, and at our health level, we might not have lived, but the -1 did allow us to live that. But we knew at this point it was kind of like a lost cause for our Venusaur. We needed it to go down. We had to lose something. We wanted to keep the Metagross. We go for the dual wing beat, assuming it's going to knock it out, and it doesn't knock it out. It has just enough HP investment that our Fox does not pull it off, cannot get the KO, and the Mega Lot Bunny lives on 4, which is extremely unfortunate, because had that killed, we probably could have gone with Fox and swept the rest of the game. So super unfortunate that that was the case. I didn't do the check afterwards. I don't know if those were low rolls or not. Either way, Mega Lop lives on 4%. At this point, I'm trying to decide if there's any way we can win this. I was kind of leaning on Fox, knowing that we had that priority dual wing beat in the back for both the Lot Bunny and the Scolipede, and even if the Scolipede was sashed, we could break through it. So I decided that at this point we do just need to get rid of Salamence, because it's good. Everything else is going to outspeed it. It's not going to help me out in any way. So all I can do here is go into the Metagross, go for the Bullet Punch, get the knockout on the Megalop. But in the end, it's really just not going to be enough at this point. I'm trying to do the math. I'm trying to do the calcs. They could just stay in with the Lot Bunny, sack it off and get a safe switch into one of their other two mons to finish it off. Likely the Scolipede, just because then it starts getting boosts and it outspeeds my my Talonflame because it gets the free switch in. And that's exactly what happens. We go for the Bullet Punch, knock out the Mega Lot Bunny. In comes the Scolipede, who is just going to do its thing and proceed to knock out my last two Pokemon. So with that being said, we're gonna just kind of let this play out. Once the battle stops, my whatever you call it, you can hear me again, and so I'm gonna just let past Cameron tell you that synopsis at the end. But you can see it. We're gonna go for the bullet punch. Scolipede goes for the earthquake, knocks it out, and then we're actually gonna see it go for the poison jab on the Talonflame, and that is going to be that. That was a good game. I think the biggest things from this battle is I played way too recklessly with my Zeraora at the beginning. It was a lot of prediction games, and I should have just done what I really don't know. That Incineroar really kind of threw me off as the lead. I should have just probably gone straight for the Volt Switch to start things off, knowing that he probably was going to do something to try to hit my Zeraora. That's probably the first thing I would have said. From there, I feel like we played okay. We made some pretty good plays. The rock slide miss on Silvally was really big. I don't think there was really much. I feel like we played well with our Metagross. Metagross was definitely the MVP of this match. But overall, I think that was a great game by Willem. Very well played. Thank you all for watching today. We are starting off 0-1, but that is okay. This is the team where we are going to find our redemption. So come back next week for week 2. Hope you enjoyed. See you later, friends.